uncomfortable moment. So this is the commonplace book, commonplace binder. I'm going to set this down. And this uncomfortable moment will end. The camera will steady itself very shortly. I think it has. So yeah, selections that captured your mind. I will not be going into the individual entries today. If you want to look for that, just check one of the many videos on my channel, which feature that. Now, they are normally pretty early on, so I will look very uncomfortable while recording them, but they are there if that's what you're looking for. Today, I'm going to be going through one column at a time. That is this video, that's next video, that's the video number of this playlist, and yeah, we're just going to go through the stuff, one column at a time. So, uncomfortable moment. When I make this noise off screen, everybody's like, what is that? Why is there noise? And you're probably going to have some much more uncomfortable moments when you're going through something like this, because you might realize, ooh, I don't know if I actually want these many, or like this many things. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go through all of your different categories and combine a bunch of them. Or you might be like, wow, this is kind of full. What do I do when it gets full? And you're going to have to go through and get rid of some of the stuff. And maybe you look at the front cover and decide, well, I don't know if I really like that. What if it had like some red or some gold? That might look kind of cool. You know, it does have some, it has some utility right now. Like, for example, this is video number 96, and that says capture, right? And that says captured. Kind of useful. Building trust. So one of the ways I've been trying to build trust is by having a 100 video playlist on whatever I want to talk about. I'm going to do that each year forever. So if I do this for 10 years, that'll be, you know, 1,000 videos, which is kind of a lot. I'm not really sure if that's going to work out, because I think as of right now, looking at my finances, I have roughly 2 years until I'm homeless. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm pretty happy about this. Overcorrection. So you might see I wrote this in very big letters, and that one letter was big enough. And I had to shrink everything down. And so when you're working on saving selections, you might find that saving 2/3 of a book is kind of a little bit too much. And you might want to go with something a little bit more like a line of text, because 3/4 of a book will fill up 3/4 of the binder. Not necessarily, but it's just sometimes people take a little bit too much and they don't realize how much they took, and they're like, oops. Because not only is it a pain to cite that, but at that point it just kind of feels like blatant plagiarism, and like you might as well just have the book. Like, it's not really notes on the book, it's just kind of the book itself. Unspoken reality. The unspoken reality of what exactly? If we're talking about commonplace books and commonplace binders being basically the same, don't worry, I've gone over that many times. If we're talking about how paper is not necessarily as efficient as digital, I have talked about that. So I'm not really sure which unspoken reality I'm supposed to go through. The fact that I don't go through this every single day, I mean, I feel like people know that because it's a binder. So one of the drawbacks to having a binder is, you know, it's a little bit bigger than a phone, and so it's not always easy to carry everywhere I go. Like, if I go on a walk, I'm not going to bring a full-size binder with me. Now, I might bring a little notepad, something like this big, and so that way I can take notes on it. Oh my gosh, it's going to be difficult to put this away where it came from, but I got it. You know, I gotta like stuff it under the tape. That was poor planning, because it wasn't planned. So let's get on to the next thing. Keep your mind alive. So maybe the thing that you're going to do is you're just going to save selections, and you feel like your mind has been captured, and so your mind is going to be alive if you just hold on to the moments of your past. That's not really prepping for the future at all. And so if you're keeping your mind alive, is your mind really going to feel alive if you never look at new information? I feel like your mind might get a little distracted or feel like it's dying. It's like, I had all this stimulation. Where did it go? I need it back. And so you might have some trouble if you only focus on the past. The scale of the problem can become quite large if you realize you've only been saving information for 10 years and you've never actually generated new information, or reviewed the old information, or, you know, done all the other things that people will normally do with a commonplace book. Like, we're supposed to look at it sometimes, even if that's only once every year, to just to be like, oh yeah, I did that. It's a little ridiculous to make the things and just ignore them. It feels different now. It actually does feel different now with all the AI tools, and people just keep mentioning AI and stuff like that. It's kind of freaking me out because it feels like we're going through an acceleration, which was speculated on, over 10 years ago. So back when I was in high school, I did hear people talking about the idea of social media just being like an information gathering place, and then if we create AI, the AI will just eat it as like the next system, because you always have to think about what comes after each system that's been created. I'm not really sure what comes after the AI, because I haven't been talking to most of the forward-thinking people in a while, because I've been very focused on, trying to make the baseline function, which I think many people will find relatable in the 2020s. We just did that one. Explore without consequence. So the consequences of exploring your own little information space, where it's all carefully curated and you've already looked at it and it's stuff that you saved from earlier, there's not really going to be any negative consequence to that, unless you look at information which is outdated that hasn't been updated, that you never actually end up updating. And then you end up quoting that or using that as like a mental framework to interact with the modern era. So, the consequences are pretty limited. Subtle interconnections. This is a very fun one. So one of the things that I have done for, the majority of my decade plus long journey with commonplace books and related stuff is I will sometimes gather a bunch of notes on things. Like, I'll have all these selections, and I won't necessarily want to put them in the same place. I want to split them up amongst a bunch of different categories. And so one of the reasons for this is so I don't accidentally take 3/4 of a book, and if I do, I'm breaking it into 26 different categories. So it's not really going to be like, the majority of a book. It's going to be split up a lot. And so one of the great things is finding out how much all of the things I work on are actually connected. And I'm sure this will happen to you too, if you break everything down and split it up. Things can get a little weird if you do that, and it might take a little bit longer than expected. Fountain of knowledge. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why. So it's not necessarily going to be knowledge, it's just going to be a fountain of information. And so instead of getting blasted by the algorithm, you're just going to get blasted by the notes that you took, which in some ways feels kind of insulting, because it's like, this isn't even new stuff. It isn't even necessarily relevant. Why am I looking at this? And so it might be difficult to get rid of the dopamine rush that you might get from experiencing the new things. But it is very nice to every so often go through the old stuff, because, well, if you do it kind of rarely, it's still going to be a rush. And so you'll have like an on-demand energy boost, even if you're not actually doing the thing very often. Or with any frequency. Playing it safe. Yeah, so what kind of selections are you going to save? What are you going to do? Are you going to take newspaper clippings? Are you going to go through old books that you have? Are you going to grab random quotes from the internet? Like, what are you going to do? It might be good to start with whatever feels the safest. So for me at the beginning, the thing that felt the safest was getting rid of my school notes, because, my school notes were kind of meaningless because I didn't have school anymore. And I wasn't going to give my notes to a younger sibling to be like, good luck, now you have some help. They wouldn't have accepted them anyway. I had one sibling who was outrageously good at school, and then the other one who just considers anything I say to be absolute garbage. So they were not going to accept my notes. Yeah. Good for yourself. So just like nobody wanted my notes, and I didn't give my notes to anybody, my notes were only good for me. And whatever commonplace you make is probably only going to be good for you, because even if all the information matches what other people want, it's not necessarily going to be arranged in the order that they find the easiest to navigate. Long-term growth. This is one of the reasons why I'm in a little bit of a financial problem right now, because I have focused everything on long-term growth. I'm like, okay, so if I grow at a rate of 1 subscriber times 10 subscribers every year, you know, I'll have 1, and then I'll have 10, and I'll have 100, and then 1,000, and like it'll keep going up. If I can do that for 7 years, I'll have 1,000,000 subs, and so that'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, so if I can make $1 in 1 year and $10 the year after that, and it's like, dude, like I understand you have this like long-term growth mindset, but that only works for the people who are already wealthy, because they can afford to just sit around and not receive income. So like you gotta you gotta set something up. So as soon as I finish this, I will be probably adding some sort of way for people to give me money. But I'll probably talk about that at the beginning of next playlist, and then for the 66th video of that playlist, or maybe some extra points like here where I'm just having a random freak out. Where are we? A tool for sifting information. So one of the great things about having a limited space to keep things in is that only the most relevant information can remain. So if you have good information but it's not relevant, you got to get rid of it. And so that doesn't necessarily mean throwing it away. But it might be good to have like a second binder where you put all the like trash, because it's not necessarily trash, and then you could go through that and you could, you know, trim that down, maybe re-end something, but probably don't do that all the time, because, you know, you moved it out of the relevant area for at least one reason. Solving the wrong problems. So the wrong problem is trying to jam literally every single thing into one binder. You will probably need some stuff to be in other places at some point. Probably because it's not all the most important, but you might also have specific types of notes for specific events. If for whatever reason you're not just using your phone or a tablet or something, you might have notes that you bring to the doctor or the dermatologist or the dentist. You know, those are 3D professions. Yeah. Confused and overwhelmed. Were you confused by 3 letters of the same type? Probably not. That would be very silly. But this can get kind of confusing and overwhelming. Like imagine you have one binder and then another day goes by and you're like, well, I should get a second one. And maybe you get all the way to like 10 binders and you're like, okay, I have a shelf, but now I need a second shelf. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like this big blob of paper in your room. That would never happen, right? And I'm sure no one would ever do like the notebook equivalent, where they just buy more notebooks or just more books, and they're like, you know, I'm going to read those. I'm going to use those. I'm going to get to them at some point. Like, no, this is a problem that happens to a lot of people. It's like big surprise that the people who are trying to hoard information end up with like a minor hoarding problem. Like it's not really a surprise. It happens. It's okay. Just try to, you know, manage it a little bit. Give it your all. So you don't necessarily have to put all the energy into anti-hoarding, because that's where we end up with minimalism. And then, yeah, that gets very complicated very quickly. But yeah, give it your all. I'm trying to make these videos. I think I'm only going to have 2 videos in the shirt this time, because I think I recorded 2 videos last time, which means this is me finishing the set of 4, which is kind of annoying because I like the shirt, you know, like that's a good color. I didn't really like that angle. Oh, that was weird. These are very comfortable. Not sponsored, but, you know, maybe. Maybe I'll do that in the future. Radically long-term. So I've got long-term growth and radically long-term. It's kind of silly to combine both of those into the same video. But I think it is kind of radical to think long-term right now, because everything seems to be all about right now. It's like, you know, businesses are focused on the next quarter, because got to give money to the shareholders. It seems like everybody's focusing on AI stuff. It's like, what sort of prompts do I use? What do I need to use? I was thinking about talking about a prompt book for next year, but a prompt book, as far as Wikipedia is concerned, I think is like a theater-related thing, and I don't really want to make it like a theater kid video, because I'm not a theater kid. So that would be a little weird. And yeah, that, let's see if I can fix that. How did I turn on the lights? I'm using my computer monitors for lights, and I feel like I say that all the time. So, how do you find the selections that captured your mind in the first place? Okay, so if you watched a movie and you didn't want to take notes while watching the movie because you just wanted to enjoy it, you could also just go to one of those websites that grabs all the cool quotes from a movie, and the quote you're looking for will probably be in there. Not necessarily, but probably. And so you could just scroll through that, and I assume for every 10 quotes, you'll probably find at least one that's good. Just because, you know, when people have a favorite movie, they normally enjoy more than one quote from the movie. Anyways, completed. This is never going to be done. So even if I fill this all the way up, this is never going to be done, because right now a lot of this is handwritten. In fact, all of it is handwritten. But in the future, I'm probably going to, you know, make some sort of digital printable. I'm going to want to, you know, print that out and show it off to people because, like, look, this works. And so that'll go in here. And then all of the stuff that isn't handwritten will eventually get replaced. And whenever I print something out and cover it in too much writing, I'll, you know, retype it out, make a new version, plop it on the binder, and that'll be that. But I'm just constantly going to be making new stuff. And you're probably also constantly going to be making new stuff. Because as fun as it is to, you know, go back to the old stuff, it's also kind of crappy to live in the past. So, why timestamps is up next. And, you know, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.